So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 hits theaters today. I saw it at an early screening on Wednesday and had a great experience there. The audience was very alive and the energy in the room was very excited to see this movie, and rightfully so, because this is the epic conclusion, one last ride with heart, as the posters say, to this trilogy of films about this found family of misfits and outcasts who all come together to guard the galaxy from numerous threats, starting with Ronan the Accuser, and then going to Ego the Living Planet, and now with this recent installment, the High Evolutionary. And I'm going to tell you in this video why the Guardians of the Galaxy started out as some of my least favorite characters in all of the MCU, and now, after having seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, they have become some of my absolute favorite characters in the entire saga. I'm not going to waste any time here, but before I do get started, I would like to ask you, if you like this video, then be sure to leave a like on this video. And if you want to see more videos like this and check out some of my other videos that I have on my channel, that would be greatly appreciated. It would mean the world to me if you would hit subscribe even. That would be awesome. And turn on all notifications for my channel to get notified whenever I come out with a new video, because I'm going to be trying to come out with new videos weekly or, semi-weekly, just whenever I have a good idea for a video like this one. And before we get started, I would like to give a minor spoiler warning. I'm not going to discuss big things from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, like whoever dies or anything like that, or big major plot points that happen at the end of the movie and such. But it would give you more context if you have seen the movie already. So I would suggest that you go watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It is a phenomenal movie. Go see it in theaters. It is meant to be experienced on the big screen because it is such an emotional ride. I haven't cried that much in a long time, and I haven't cheered as loudly as I did in the theater in a very long time. So if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend you go check it out. And with that said, let's continue with the video. So I really did not like Guardians of the Galaxy. When they showed up in their first movie and I saw the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I really was not hooked on the characters. Actually, I think I saw the second one before the first one. I wasn't really ever hooked on these characters. And mainly because of the sense of humor that James Gunn has. At first, it really didn't stick with me. I really did not appreciate James Gunn's unique flair and his sense of humor and his style of movies, just because the Guardians of the Galaxy were so crass, and so their humor was so mean-spirited, and that mostly just comes from James Gunn. So that's something that if you like it, you like it, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. He's kind of a polarizing dude. I think he's a very creative guy, and I've always respected James Gunn's creativity, but his sense of humor and his particular way that he wrote these characters, I found just more kind of annoying, not really that funny. I didn't find them amusing or entertaining really in any way. And whenever I watched the movies, I just kind of sat there and went, I don't understand why people like the Guardians of the Galaxy so much, because other people found them amusing and funny, and I didn't really connect with the characters in any way. I thought Star-Lord was pretty annoying. Not anything against the acting or any of the actors, of course. It wasn't anyone else's fault for me not liking these characters. It was more my own fault. I just refused to connect with James Gunn's particular style, and I didn't find their stories interesting or compelling. I didn't really get on board with these stories of these characters, and I didn't really understand what the appeal was until before I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on Wednesday night, May 3rd. I rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2, which I hadn't seen in a little while, even though I'm a huge Marvel nerd and I rewatch the movies frequently. I hadn't really seen the Guardians movies in a while, and I rewatched them with kind of an open mind and an open heart, and I really started to see what the appeal of these characters were and why people really connected with them so much, and I just had more of an open mind to James Gunn's sense of humor and his creative style, and I watched the movies with more of wanting to experience what other people were experiencing, because everyone wants to be included, right? Nobody wants to be left out, and I was kind of being left out of the enjoyment that most of you had with these characters from day one that I didn't really experience. And of course, that all radically changed after I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and the movie was so well done and so profound and so emotional that it really hammered home this message that the heart of the Guardians is, and really helped me understand what makes these characters so special and so unique and so relatable to everyone, and what really the heart of the team is, and what the heartbeat of the message of these movies is. It's something that really resonated with me, and after walking out of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I really just couldn't stop thinking about this one profound message that the movie portrays, especially in the third movie, but also you can see it in the first two, because the third one wouldn't exist without the first two. And just this really cool story, and I really saw the beauty of the Guardians of the Galaxy story and how these misfits, these outcasts, these people, every single person who is on the team by the time you get to the third movie, they've all lost something or someone that was really important to them. They're really broken characters. Throughout the movie, you see them all bickering and arguing all the time. They're not really a functioning, any outsider who would look at the Guardians of the Galaxy would not see them as a functioning team, or even as what I would call them, a family, and what the movie calls them, a family of these broken people who all come together by their imperfections and are molded into a family by their losses and by their imperfections, and made whole by each other, and wouldn't really do nearly as well without all of them there together as a family. So this brings me to a topic that I really wanted to discuss in this video, about how the High Evolutionary, who is the villain of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, if you didn't know, and this is not really a major spoiler, his whole shtick is he's trying to build a perfect society. A society where there are no imperfections, everyone is perfect, they're not aggressive at all, they don't do anything wrong or bad, and everything is how he wants this new society to be. And he was experimenting on Rocket Raccoon in a really tragic backstory that's really heart-wrenching and emotional. The backstory of Rocket Raccoon, how he was taken apart and put back together over and over again by the High Evolutionary and experimented on for years on the High Evolutionary, trying to enhance his intelligence and also crack the code of how Rocket gained along the way this invention and this creativity that the High Evolutionary did not expect, and something that was not a part of his creation, something that he didn't engineer. And by the end of the movie, he gets a little frustrated by this, how everything he's created runs and does exactly what they're supposed to, but they don't do anything beyond what they've memorized, the written word. They're just totally like robots. There's no life to them. So what the High Evolutionary missed in his quest to create a perfect society is what makes life life. And I really liked the High Evolutionary as a villain, because he was the perfect Marvel villain in the sense that he is the perfect contrast to our heroes, because the High Evolutionary is trying to build a society that is perfect, has no flaws, and even in his first attempt that we see in the movie to do this, with Counter-Earth being his first step to build a perfect society, there are still imperfections here that have already formed when the Guardians get to that planet. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should probably go see the movie. The Guardians are driving through the town and they see people selling meth to each other, and they see these people beating each other in an alleyway, these animals that have been evolved to be humanistic humanoid creatures with higher intelligence. There are still imperfections in this society that the High Evolutionary has built. And so he destroys the whole planet, spoiler alert, and he wants to build a new one, but he still doesn't want to do it without cracking the code of what made Rocket able to have this higher intelligence and this creativity that spanned beyond what the High Evolutionary had implanted and coded into Rocket Raccoon. What the High Evolutionary missed is what makes the Guardians team so powerful and so impactful, and that is the fact that they were born from their imperfections. And the High Evolutionary was trying to build a society with no imperfections, but that's really what life is. You can't have life or a society without its imperfections, and it's not despite of those imperfections that society and life is built, but it's through the overcoming of them that good societies and good life is formed. Because the Guardians, they're James Gunn's crass, James Gunn's mean-spirited sense of humor, which is displayed through the Guardians of the Galaxy, really goes to show how broken and imperfect these human beings are, and why the Guardians, and Rocket Raccoon specifically, are able to overcome the High Evolutionary, because life itself is imperfect. And the High Evolutionary missed the fact that there's a fundamental element to life itself that he was trying to eradicate, but that very thing, imperfection, is what makes life itself worth living, is to overcome your imperfections and live in spite of those imperfections and not succumb to those imperfections. And this is just a really powerful story that is portrayed through Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, to where the Guardians are, throughout the whole movie, they're fighting again, and they're bickering, and their plans don't go 100% according to what they planned it to be, and even and Drax in the scene where he's talking to all of the new children of the High Evolutionary's new society that he was trying to build. Drax tries to entertain these kids, and this scene really stuck in my mind because it plays as just a funny joke and just a random one-off moment, but Drax talks about how he used to entertain his daughter with this way, his daughter who he lost to Ronan the Accuser, and Drax starts making monkey noises, but they're not real monkey noises. Drax gets them wrong because Drax doesn't quite understand monkey noises. He's never seen a monkey or heard one. So in this scene, Drax is making these noises to this child that he says are monkey noises, and they're not. He gets it wrong. Drax isn't perfect, and none of the Guardians are perfect because no one is perfect. So this movie really portrays the imperfections and the brokenness and the flaws of these heroes, and the fact that they're able to overcome them because they are with one another. And that's a really, really cool message. And the High Evolutionary is the perfect villain because he completely missed that. He missed the fact that life itself is built on imperfection and flaws. And he even said human beings are some of the most creative beings in the universe, but their arrogance and their ignorance are what needs to be eradicated. And there's a scene where one of his henchmen says, "For God's sake," and then he says, "There is no God, that's why I stepped in." The High Evolutionary considers himself to be a god, and he is trying to build a perfect society without the very thing that is the building blocks of life itself and everything that we know and see in the world. And this is really highlighted and accentuated through the Guardians of the Galaxy themselves, because they were brought together not by how good of people they were, because they have all got their problems, they've all got their issues. Some of them are assassins or just cold-blooded killers, and they all come from these really, really terrible backgrounds with a lot of baggage there. And they all come together and they're united, and they come to Counter-Earth wearing these costumes, matching uniforms, comic accurate matching uniforms, which aren't really explained in the movie, but they all come out wearing these matching uniforms because they are united as a family. One that was born from their flaws, from their mistakes, from their imperfections, and woven into something that is so much better than any of their mistakes and their flaws. And something that is built in spite of that. And that is such a powerful and amazing message that it's a beautiful story that James Gunn was able to craft with this movie. And I haven't left the theater feeling that great after watching an MCU movie in a long time. It's definitely the best movie that the MCU has put out since Endgame, and it really highlighted to me what makes the Guardians of the Galaxy so great, what makes them stand out from the other MCU heroes, because all of the heroes have their flaws, all of them make their mistakes, but the Guardians are built upon those, and they're woven together and brought together, and they make their flaws their strengths. And it really is a super cool and powerful message that is really accentuated in this movie. And I was really impressed with the amount of depth that James Gunn gave to these themes that you can see throughout the movie, and how well they aren't spoken out loud, but I think it was so much deeper in this movie, much more richly explored, specifically with how tragic Rocket Raccoon's backstory was, of how he was taken by the High Evolutionary and then put in a lab and experimented on for years and years and years, and how through his, like, the High Evolutionary calls him, you're just some experiment that's nothing more than just something meant to be thrown away, and you don't really amount to anything. But Rocket Raccoon had gained the very essence of life that the High Evolutionary could never create and could never be created in a lab, but is something that is born outside of human manufacturing and human effort. And the essence of life itself, which is really accentuated and highlighted through Rocket Raccoon, as well as all of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Gamora is not really a great person. She doesn't really care about the Guardians of the Galaxy at all, and the whole time is always wanting to be somewhere else, because she's the Gamora from 2012. She isn't the Gamora that's been on the adventures with the Guardians and built that trust and built that relationship with them. So the whole time she's wanting to be somewhere else. She doesn't want to be with the Guardians, and she's only helping them for as long as she can, or as long as she can before she can get out of there as quickly as possible. But by the end, she really almost finds herself drawn back into this family that anyone can connect to, because everyone is broken and everyone is flawed, just like the Guardians of the Galaxy. And again, it is different from other Marvel heroes who have flaws and have mistakes and have imperfections and all that stuff. But the Guardians are really built upon that, and they highlight that fact, and they really just embody this message of brokenness and healing in this found family, to where all of them have lost family members, but they find family in each other, and they build a secure relationship that can never be broken by any supervillain that comes their way. And the finale of this movie, you get some super awesome action. You get the soundtrack is amazing as always. This is definitely right up there with Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2 with the soundtrack wise. And the movie itself might be my favorite in the trilogy because it was so profound, so powerful. Rocket Raccoon has always been my favorite Guardian of the Galaxy, so I was pleased to see that this one was more focused on him, because I've always wanted to see his backstory on the big screen. It was really, really profound, and just highlighted the fact that Rocket, this character who lost like everything, he made these friends with the High Evolutionaries batch that he was making of these experiments, and his friends Lila and Floor, Teefs, they all were his friends, and they were all manufactured, and they looked creepy, and they had robotic limbs, and they had limbs missing, and they looked really strange, and it was really weird. In fact, like my friend who I took to the premiere, to the early screening of Guardians, he was like, what am I watching? What is this? This is easily one of the weirdest looking movies I've ever seen in my life. Just a lot of weird stuff in there, but mostly had to do with the High Evolutionaries' creations, which even as you get to the end of the movie, they're so distorted from reality and how things are, because he's so dead set on this mission to create the perfect society that he keeps plunging farther and farther from what a society actually is, which is an imperfect society, and one that still learns to function in spite of that. And the ability to learn to function in spite of the imperfections is what makes a society good. Not getting rid of them, but overcoming them. And that's what really makes the Guardians special, and again, what makes these movies so special. And it was so great. So if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3 yet, which I don't know why you would make it to the end of this video if you haven't, but if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend you go check it out. There's some really cool things in this movie. It's such an entertaining ride. It's so hilarious. It's so funny. It's also very heartbreaking. Such a super fun, emotional ride. It was an awesome experience to see it in IMAX at an early screening. It was pretty cool. The audience energy was there, so that always makes the movie experience better. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go check it out. It is in theaters now. If you enjoyed this video, then please make sure to leave a like and comment down below who your favorite Guardian of the Galaxy is and why. And if you agreed with what I said in this video, which I hope you did. And if you didn't, also be sure to let me know down below in the comments. I'd love to get you guys' opinions and thoughts on this. But with that said, I hope to see you in my next video. And if you're not tired of me talking yet, which is a surprise, then click on this video right here on my face to hear my thoughts on the Flash movie and what I think it's going to be and how cool I think it's going to be. And I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you so much for stopping by.